Okay, so I want to speak a little bit about TeleSUR, the Latin American network. I I'm not overly familiar with TeleSUR, but I've come across a few other videos which I just want to comment and respond to. Um, TeleSUR has a pan Latin American outlook, and it's definitely left leaning. There are people who are praising it. I looked at the comments section, and I admit I left some rather colourful comments because critical comments because I have very strong views on any network that promotes a specific political agenda, whether left wing or right wing. Now, TeleSUR had this video on Chairman Mao. This year marks 40 years since Mao died, and it was the most odious piece of propaganda I won't say that I've ever seen, but it is exactly the sort of crap that would come straight from the Communist Party itself. And they present the title as if they're neutral, tyrant or hero, but the entire outlook of the video, it's only about just over a minute long, and the description is entirely pro-Mao. So these people claim to be neutral and independent. They're not. They're pro-communist. And they say in China Mao has enormous popularity. This is very misguided. Um, the fact of the matter is China still remains a single party state. So people cannot openly criticize Mao Zedong. The party officially recognizes he made mistakes, which is about the most absurd way to describe some of the greatest crimes of humanity of modern times. The Great Leap Forward was an utter catastrophe. The Cultural Revolution was a deliberate terror campaign. Mao was a complete monster. And I see absolutely no redeeming features whatsoever. People say, oh, but the population of China increased during the time Mao was in charge, as if that is some sort of good thing. You know, certain viruses increase as well. The point I'm making is you can't just point to a demographic increase to justify massive mortality rates from repression. Um, and when communists say, "Oh, but this is bias," Westerners, what I would say is, until China gets some sort of semblance of free expression on these issues, then frankly, it doesn't matter if there's biased Western sources, because within China, where it matters, there is no scope for real debate. It is true that China today has more plurality of thought than in the past, certainly more than in Mao's days. But TeleSUR is basically shamelessly promoting pro-Mao lies. Actually, many Chinese don't like Mao. A lot of young people are indifferent to Mao. I think they find him more of an oddity, a bit of an eccentric old man than have any real love for him. Um, and there's a simple reason for this. The party that Mao was part of, although he tried to destroy it for himself, is still in power. So, in other countries where there's been totalitarian regimes, there has been a real review of history. Germany is a prime example with Adolf Hitler, Russia to a lesser extent. Um, but the point about China is the same regime is in power that was in power when Mao was paramount leader. So of course you're not going to get a scope for real self-analysis. China's record on looking and being honest about its own history is almost non-existent. It's very good at playing the victim and blaming other countries and pointing out imperial wrongs and so on. But TeleSUR, it's just typical far left nonsense. They will claim to be independent journalists, but basically they're just a mouthpiece for hard left regimes. Um, so they make out that it's just the West that has this opinion on Mao. The fact of the matter is there are Red Guards still alive today, people in their 60s and early 70s who were Red Guards during the time of Mao and who have spent a lifetime in shame because they know what they've done and they know that they were brainwashed by this evil man. And those are the facts. How TeleSUR could try to make an equilibrium like there was any redeeming features, but that's the point. They don't even bother reporting the massive abuses of his regime, and it pisses me off. because, and then of course they have the audacity to use YouTube to promote these lies. YouTube, of course, is an American company. I can't stand that sort of hypocrisy of claiming to be against American power and yet using an American company to promote their far left agenda. Um, these same people, of course, are making excuses for Fidel Castro and the appalling record of Chavism in Venezuela. They're a joke, as far as I'm concerned. If they were a truly independent network, they would be doing exposes and analysis on left wing regimes just as much as right wing regimes. But they're a left wing network with a left wing agenda. Um, and it's just, it's a bad joke. Um, I've been to China. I have seen the textbooks that still to this day encourage children to love Chairman Mao. I think it would be less effective than it was in the past. Um, Deng Xiaoping, to his credit, one of the best things he done was opening China up. There's still a long way to go, but I frankly get very little patience with those who want to make out that it's just some sort of Western propaganda against Mao. Look at Chinese intellectuals who have written about this man. Look at their record, okay? Look at what they have to say about him. Brave people like Harry Wu and Wang Jisheng and others who have dared to write the truth about Mao and they've had to go into exile because of it. So yeah, shame on you, TeleSUR. You're liars, you're propagandists, and don't call yourselves independent journalists. Don't call yourselves neutral. It's quite clear that you have a left-wing agenda. And I know how it works. Because you hate all things American and you're opposed to American foreign policy, you're going to embellish the records of left-wing dictators like Mao and Fidel Castro. And that just makes you lousy journalists. You're not interested in the truth. You're only interested in showing 50%. Okay? I'm not criticizing you for being anti-American. That's not the issue. The issue is your inconsistency and your lack of transparency and the fact that you are actually acting as a mouthpiece for the Chinese Communist Party. In other words, you useful idiots. Shame on you.